All right. Welcome to podcast number 2 on Design and Drive. And on this one, we're going to explain a little bit about what it's like to work with Walker Home Design. Our process is pretty unique. Most architects and home designers usually have crisis management. So you're calling up saying, hey, where's my plans? What's going on? When can I meet with you guys again? And it's quite a bit different at Walker Home Design. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in and take you through the process as if you were a new client in our office and what to expect. So here we go. All right, so that's a video of some of the homes we've done recently, different styles, different types, different locations, cities. You saw a few shots of me out there on job sites talking with subcontractors and builders. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Here's a little history. Sometimes people want to know where you came from, what your background is, what qualifies you to draw their $10 million house. So here's just a few statistics about our company. A little bit about myself. I designed over 4,000 homes, remodels, multifamily projects in almost 30 years of doing this professionally. Our company, we try to be pretty picky about who we hire. So we've won tons of awards because we hire great people. So if you're looking for a spot to work and you want to be with a cool team, we've won tons of awards. Here in Utah, we've won 9 Best of State, and 3 out of the last 4 years we've won Best of Salt Lake City, Best Architect, Best Interiors, People's Choice in the Parade of Homes, those kind of things. Something else unique is I'm a homeowner and I've built my own homes that I live in. I've also grew up building homes with my dad and my grandpa. My grandpa started building homes back in the 1940s. I've developed land, taken horse property, turned it into 3-lot subdivisions, and learned a lot from that experience. And you can see some of the other things on there. I currently coach a lot of girls fast pitch softball. I'm working on an invention. We've got it patented for a heavy workout baseball bat. I've also published some children's books, and I'm hoping to do a Disneyland type park here in Utah. So I've got a lot of things I'm trying to accomplish. But one of the best things about our company is our team. We have a great team of people. We're always adding to it, looking for good people to join us. And our process that our team follows really sets us apart. There's 4 things I want to go into. That's really things that we shine at here at Walker Home Design. 4 things that really we focus on and we feel like we do a really good job. The first one is designing homes that are economical to build. What that means is trying to be efficient with the layouts and not wasting materials, time, money, that sort of thing. I used to think that everybody drew plans the same way. And what I discovered was that's not the case. In fact, in 2008, 9, and 10, the housing market took kind of a turn, put the brakes on, I guess, and everybody got worried if housing was going to continue or not, or how long it was going to take to bounce back from this downturn in the economy. And builders started coming to me and saying, hey, are you going to stay in business, or are you going to quit and start selling energy drinks like some of these other guys? And I said, well, this is kind of my dream job, so I hope we can keep going. Or are you going to keep buying plans from us? And every one of those builders that came to us said, we love doing your plans, even though they're more expensive than your competitor. What we've learned is when we bid them out to our subcontractors, your plans are coming back $10,000 to $30,000 less to build than your cheaper competition. And I said, well, why is that? Doesn't everybody draw the same way? And they said, no, let us show you what you do different on your plans. So they opened up a set of plans and started showing me things that we did that was a little different. In 2012, this whole process was kind of emphasized. We did this home on the right. It's in South Jordan, is a city just south of us here in Salt Lake. And we did this 6,000 square foot custom home right next door to another client's 6,000 square foot custom home. The unique thing about this situation was the young couple that hired us, his parents built next door, and they hired the same builder but hired a different architect to do their plans. And their home was also 6,000 square feet. So 2 homes side by side, built by the same builder at the same time, using the same subs, the same finishes, the same carpet, the same appliances. The only difference was the architect / home designer. And so I went to the builder and I said, who's the other home designer that's doing that house? And he told me their name, and they are very famous here in Utah. They're in all the parades. They win tons of awards. Their homes are amazing. And as a guy just starting out in his business, I thought to myself, man, I want to be like this guy when I grow up. And so I went to the builder and I said, you got to tell me how we compare. After you build both houses, come back and tell me if we're even close to being as good as this guy. And so we'd go out every few weeks and take pictures inside the house and get interviews with some of the subcontractors and things. And when the projects got done, the builder, I took him to lunch and I said, okay, tell me how we did. And he said, well, first of all, the Walker Home Design made it through the city plan review a month quicker. So our house got started a month quicker than the other house. He said, the city came back and said, your plans are easier to review, they're easy to follow, and it just made their job quite a bit easier. He said then, after he added up all the timelines on how long each home took to build, the Walker plan was 2 months faster. So right there, we finished 3 months ahead of the other house. Now, if you look at interest and what you pay on construction loans, we saved our client back then, it was about $3,000 a month. So almost $10,000 in savings just with those couple of items. But the builder then got a smile on his face. He said, well, the biggest number is yet to come. He said, we added up all the invoices for materials, labor, products, appliances, and things like that to get an apples to apples comparison. And he said, your Walker plan actually cost $100,000 less to build than the other architect's house. And so people, when I tell them that story, they always come to me and say, well, how do you do that? How do you save $100,000 on 6,000 square feet versus another house? And this is kind of what it goes back to. So as a kid, I grew up playing with Legos. I'm not ashamed to admit I still play with them a little bit. And I love their directions. They're always so simple and easy to follow. In fact, I've mentioned this to a lot of my clients. Lego wins national and worldwide awards for how simple their directions are. I think IKEA is like second place. If you're ever building something and you want simple directions to follow, Lego's right there. And I thought as a kid, someday when I start my company, I want my directions to be simple and easy to follow like Legos. I've never once had to cut a Lego in half to get it to fit on a spaceship or a truck or a house or, something like that. Then as I got older and started helping my dad and my grandpa build houses, I noticed that in our industry, we also use materials that are similar sizes. Like plywood comes in 4x8 sheets, drywall's 4x8 or 4x10. I used to lay carpet on the weekends with my friend and his girlfriend's dad, and it always comes in 12-foot rolls. And so I started to remember things like that, the standard sizes of the materials we use to build. And so then once I started my company, I said, I've learned a lot by being out on job sites. So I would like to take my team out to job sites. So we go out to job sites during framing, sometimes at 4-way inspection. That's when the plumber, the electrician, the HVAC guys have all finished their work. We go back and see the guts of a house and how it all comes together. And something we started noticing as we interviewed different trades was that this was one of the problems happening all the time, where the framer leaves, plumber comes in and he's setting tubs and toilets and showers, and he drills through a floor joist and he drills through a beam, and somebody's got to pay for that. And when the builder would go to the plumber and get mad at him, the plumber would say, well, the homeowner wants the tub or the shower right here, so the drain's got to be in this location. So then he would say, well, I got to blame somebody else. I'm going to go to the framer. He put the beam in the wrong spot. So he'd go to the framer, and the framer would say, well, I'm just laying out the floor joist like the engineer called. And so you'd see these finger pointings back and forth, back and forth. Eventually somebody has to pay for it, and it's usually the homeowner, because the builder isn't going to take responsibility of that, and it's going to be a line item on contingency for the homeowner. And so we put our heads together with plumbers, electricians, HVAC companies, and said, how do we fix this? And this is the solution we came up with about 25 years ago. What we do is we mark where all the plumbing goes on a floor joist plan, and those are indicated by the red and green arrows. And then we lay out the floor joist, which are those vertical lines, from left to right on the house or right to left. And the blue arrow indicates what side of the house the framer should start his joist layout on. And so no matter what, we usually hit a drain or some type of a shower area going left to right or right to left, but we have our drafting team trained to pick the least area affected. And so in this case, the green arrow is pointing to a drain that's going to get hit no matter what. So we have a note just to the left of the green arrow that says block out for plumbing. So now the framer, he knows what side of the house to start his layout on. He knows where drains are going to happen, and he knows where he needs to frame out a little bit more space for that drain to work. Almost like you would see on a direction to build a spaceship with Lego. And so this right here, builders came back and said, this saves us anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 on bigger homes in time, money, and labor. And they said, this is one of about 20 to 30 things that we see on Walker's plans of thinking ahead, solving problems before they become issues on a job site. And that's why we like using Walker plans. All right. So that's item number one that we feel like we're really good at Walker Home Design. Item number two is designing better floor plans. And the way that we do that is we ask a lot of questions. So as a client comes into our office, we try not to make assumptions like, oh, you want a 3-car garage and you want 4 bedrooms and you want a dining room and a pantry. We ask people how they're going to use their space. A lot of times I use the term, what's your pain? Usually as humans, we don't make a change in our life unless there's a pain or something's bugging us. And so that's true with people that build houses. I'm going to build a new house because I have more kids and I need more space. Or I'm going to build a new house because I don't have as many kids at home and I need a smaller space. Whatever that issue is, we try to find out how they're going to use their new space. For example, in the garage, we ask our clients, how many cars do you have? What size are they? How much space do you need for storage in the garage? Do you work from home? Do you need a home office? Do you have clients that come into that office? How much time do you spend in your kitchen? Are you a gourmet chef or do you do takeout? And if you do cook a lot, how many people are in that kitchen with you? And do you need a bigger pantry? Do you entertain? Do you have parties? And every aspect of the house, we go through this question and answer series so that we know exactly how they're going to use the space so that we can get it designed correctly. By listening to clients, that helps us get their home uniquely designed for what their needs are. We also try to advise our clients not to do weird things. We do a lot of remodels, and in some older homes, you see a lot of hallways, And so you feel like you're a mouse hunting for cheese down the hallway. If we can eliminate a lot of that hallway space, which is wasted, then we can put that back into a kitchen or a great room or a bedroom where it's going to get used a lot more. So that's the second thing we're really good at Walker Home Design. The third thing is designing homes that look better. So economical to build, functional to live in, attractive to look at, number 3. And the way that we do this is we follow rules of architecture, and it's called the golden segment or the golden mean, Fibonacci numbers, if you watch Da Vinci Code and things like that. But what it essentially is taking a rectangle and then dividing it so that part of that rectangle is a square, and then using the rest of that rectangle that should be the same proportion of that first rectangle. And you can kind of see it in these red lines on the Parthenon and the Taj Mahal. Frank Lloyd Wright used it in his architecture. You see this picture of falling water, which is a pretty famous home he did. It's also in Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci's art and their sculptures, all about proportions and ratios and things like that. So when we go to design a house, I actually still use grid paper or grid lines to help us design and follow those rules. And so here you see a bunch of pictures from our portfolio, and clients have told us, I've been trapped on your website. I love your homes. They just look timeless. And so we've put together really good designs on homes so that people feel like their home is timeless and unique. And we want them to get a warm fuzzy in their heart when they pull in the driveway and they say, wow, this is a real cool piece of art. So those 3 things we're really good at. The fourth thing that we feel like we're really good at is giving back to our community. We work a lot with different charities. We've donated plans to Habitat for Humanity. Our office has actually built playhouses and donated those to Shriners Hospital. We've done remodel projects for a small charity called Little Miracles that helps single moms with kids remodel or improve their homes. But probably the biggest charity we've worked with over the last 20 to 30 years has been Make-A-Wish. And the way that we partner with them is we may have a home that's coming up to be in a parade of homes or something like that, and we want to do a themed room inside a client's house. And so we'll partner with Utah Make-A-Wish and find a child that has already been granted their wish, and we will design a room that looks like their wish kind of reinvented. And then during that parade, usually we'll get 10, maybe 8 to 10,000 people that come through that parade. And we'll have a QR code or a donation jar, and we try to get each person that comes through that room to donate $1 back to Make-A-Wish. And if we can get $5,000 to $10,000, we can grant another child's wish. And so I think we've designed over 30 rooms in the last 20 years and been able to grant quite a few wishes to other kids. In fact, in 2020, when COVID was going strong, Make-A-Wish called us and said, hey, would you guys like to build a playhouse for a child? And so we took our office out to the west side of Salt Lake City and built a 2-story playhouse with an art studio in the top for a little girl. And then we added a sandbox underneath so that her brothers wouldn't go bug her while she was painting and doing her artwork. It also had a slide, a rock climbing wall, and a zip line. And the little girl really loved it. So that was a lot of fun for our office too, to get out and actually build stuff. We like doing that. So the way that, those are some of the things we're good at. Here's some of the things we're not so good at. Sometimes people say, well, your plans are so expensive. We want to hire somebody that's a little cheaper and then maybe have you give us some critiquing on it and fix it. We've had a lot of clients try to do that, and we're able to do some of these things, but we're not great at it. Sometimes people hire us to do a sketch and then they take it to their cheaper friend to finish the plan. And the problem with that is you can't always tell what a home's going to cost by just a floor plan and an elevation. It's those guts of the house, the floor framing, the roof framing, the foundation. Those are the real plans that get built. And then the floor plan is just what you end up with. And so if you look at somebody's dimensioning, like I saw a plan recently from Ohio, a client called us up and the dimensions were like 19 foot 3 and 5/8 or 13 foot 2 and 2/8 or a quarter inch or 1/8. when you're out building stuff, you're never going to have an easy time measuring to those weird dimensions. We try to simplify that. We're not good at reading minds, and we struggle when people try to push our process. We have a pretty streamlined system for things, but sometimes people come in and say, well, can't you just meet at 9 o'clock on a Friday? Or can't you come in Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. because I'm a dentist and I've got to be cleaning people's teeth by 7 and it's hard to change their appointments. We try to please everybody sometimes, and it kind of bites us. And so those kind of things we're not so great at. The way that our process first starts out, when somebody calls our office and says, hey, how much do you guys charge for plans? We usually stop and ask a few questions. And there's about 24 of them. I think they're even on our website now. We've simplified it a little bit, but you can go right to our website and look at some of those questions that you should be able to answer before we even get the process started. Things like, do you have land? You'd be surprised how many times people come in without land and they want to start building their house. And the reason why that's not always a great idea is if we design your house to have views out the back, but you pick a piece of land and the views are out the front, we're not going to have windows in the right spot. Or if we design your house to have 0 steps into the house on a flat lot and you pick a piece of land that's cheap, but it's on a hillside, now all of a sudden it changes the grading and retaining walls and things like that. So that can become very difficult. It's much easier to design a house to fit the land than it is to force a design onto that property. So that's a good thing to know if you have your land or not. Are you pre-qualified? There's a lot of people that come in and they don't know what they can afford, but they want to design this dream house. And the way rates are going up and down and labor prices going up and materials going up, it can be really hard to determine what square footage you can even afford to build. I worked for a builder one time, and a client came in and they started redlining a plan that was part of the builder's portfolio of existing plans they built. And at the end of the meeting, my boss said, okay, how do you guys want to make your down payment? And they laid an envelope out on the table and it said, Publishers Clearinghouse, Ed McMahon, you may have just won $10 million. And these people actually thought they had won, and that was going to be their starting payment to build a house. So I always ask people that up front before you get into design meetings. How are you going to pay for this? Do they have a lender? Do they have a builder? Have they built before? Those are all questions. There's about 24 of them on our questionnaire that you should be able to answer, or at least have an idea. I remember one time when I asked a couple that was sitting at my table in our conference room, I said, how much do you guys want to spend on this project? And at the same time, the husband answered $400,000 and the wife said $600,000. And this was a few years back when that was a 20-30% difference in price. And when they both said the numbers, then they looked at each other and you could tell they weren't on the same page. So make sure you understand some of these questions here. Anytime we meet with a new client, we ask them at the beginning of the meeting, what are your goals for this meeting? I don't want to assume that I have all the answers and that we want to just jump right into this meeting. Sometimes clients change their mind, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And in some cases, they may have gone to a friend's house over the weekend, and now they're coming back with ideas that they saw about a pantry or a swimming pool or a garage, or they went to a parade of homes and they saw this great master bathroom and they want to incorporate something they saw in that. So I always try to ask a client, what do you want to accomplish at this meeting? What are some things you might want to start with? And then we'll jump into our regular process. When we first meet with a client, we try to get an idea on what they want. Many times they'll call our office and say, hey, give me the blue house. I really like the blue house. I want that one. But then when I sit down and ask them, well, how are you going to live in the blue house? How many kids do you have? What kind of cars do you drive? How many people do you entertain? Pretty soon we find out they really want the red house. And so we'll have to switch things up. So we try to figure out what those answers are here in this first meeting. What kind of exterior do you like on the outside of your house? And instead of asking them the name of what they want to call that, I ask them for pictures. like, do they have a Pinterest or a Houzz account with photographs? The other key element to understanding what a client wants on their plan is to ask them to write a simple sentence about those pictures. They could show me a picture and I might look at it and say, oh, those windows are great. But they sent me the picture because they like the color of the stone. And so by them writing a simple sentence or two about what they like about the picture that they sent, helps clarify and helps me understand what they can really visualize. Did they find a plan on our website, or do they want to do something custom? And then number 5, probably the biggest issue we've had in the last few years is understanding how to navigate all the codes for each particular city. I work with a couple different cities. I sit on some boards with them. And right now we're going through reviewing and modifying our building codes and processes. Every city is a little bit different, and even developments in those cities can be different, and some of their codes might supersede what the city codes are. So you have to do a lot of homework. We try to find out a lot of that information before anybody even sits down in our office. We had a client one time that was building up at Bear Lake in Idaho, and they had bought this last piece of land on the corner of a subdivision, and we were trying to design a house to fit on this little pie-shaped lot. And before the meeting started, my office had called and got from the city what the setbacks are. And the city actually said, that lot is not buildable. Imagine that. If you had spent, I think they spent $300,000 on a piece of land thinking they could build a house on it, and raced to our office to get it going because they wanted it done by a certain date. And in the very first meeting, we have to tell them that the city said you can't build a house on that property. But luckily, we had told them that. I've seen some of our competitors that go ahead and charge them for plans and design it and get it done, and then they have to go find out on their own after investing thousands of dollars that they couldn't even build a house on it. And so part of the due diligence is finding out the rules that cities will let you do on your land. So there's a lot of them too. Certain cities won't let you build if your lot's sloped more than 30%. And sometimes you have to hire to even find out that kind of stuff. Anyway. All right. So the next phase is trying to set the expectation. A lot of clients come into our office thinking, oh, this house is going to take a few months to build. In our society, in our world we live in, we're surrounded by instant gratification, right? We've got DoorDash that can get you cookies or a hamburger in just a few minutes. We've got Amazon Prime that usually knows what you want to buy before you even push order button, because our smartphones are listening to what we're talking about all the time. And if you watch HGTV enough, you'll think you can remodel a bathroom during a commercial break, or build a house over a weekend. And I'm here to tell you those things aren't necessarily true. It's going to take some time to do this. So we try to set that expectation with our clients early. I had a client one time sit down. We met for about an hour, went over some changes on a plan, and she stood up and looked me in the eye and said, okay, are the plans ready at the front desk? And I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious. And she actually got frustrated that we didn't have it all done for her in that 1 hour. So we try to set these expectations at the very beginning so they understand we have certain meetings that take place. We try to work backwards and say, when do you want to move into the house? Okay, if you want to move in on this date, then you need to start building about a year before that. And then the city is going to take a month or so to look at those plans. And then they're going to take a month to 3 months for our office to design the plans. So usually between a year and a half gives you enough time from start to finish, depending on the builder and the scope and the size of the house. So we try to help people understand that process. People always call our office and say, how much are plans? And so I usually try to turn it into an analogy or tell a story about that. So the one I've been telling people mostly is kind of like hamburgers. House plans and hamburgers could appear very similar. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people get on the internet and they start looking for house plans. And the way that we've been taught to look for plans is, what does the floor plan look like and what does the exterior look like? And that's all that gets shown on websites. And so what people do is they look for a floor plan, they look for square footage, the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, and they find a floor plan that they like. And then they either pick an exterior that matches that or try to get somebody to change that exterior to be what they like. But they don't look at the other stuff involved. So it would be similar if you were hungry for a hamburger and you saw two pictures. A lot of those hamburgers look very similar, like in this picture here. But you'll notice one hamburger's $10 and one's $2. And so you might ask yourself, well, why are they different? They look exactly the same. Or if you're shopping for floor plans, you might be looking at two floor plans that are, they're both about 2,000 square feet and they have similar exteriors. Why is one $8,000 and one's $1,500? And so I'm going to tell you what you need to look at. In this case for hamburgers, if we look at the $10 hamburger, we discover that the chef is world famous. His specialty is cooking meats, and he does a pretty good job. And if we knew he was our chef and he used this amazing world-class grill and it came with fries and a milkshake, now you could start to justify in your mind, oh, well, yeah, it comes with all this stuff and he's an expert. That's why it's $10. But if we look at why the other hamburger was $2, it's been sitting on the counter for a few months. It's starting to grow fuzz. It was cooked on a toilet grill. It's got flies buzzing around. It might have a little bit of spider leg in it. And the meat, it's not even cooked all the way. And you say, well, who's the chef cooking this thing? Well, it's a group of Oompa Loompas whose specialty isn't meat, it's candy. And the reason I compare this to architecture and home design is there's a lot of drafting companies out there that own software, and they surely can draw a floor plan and an elevation, and they can make it look pretty, but they don't know how the guts go together. They haven't built before. They haven't had any experience understanding how the materials go together, and they really shouldn't be allowed to be drawing plans. I've seen a couple of companies pop up. One of them popped up during COVID, and they've just mass-produced plans, even stealing other home designer plans, it comes to find out. So make sure you ask questions and know who's drawing your plans and what their qualifications are. When it comes to pricing, the way that we price things out, this is some of our current pricing, but basically we have a stock plan price that caters to plans we already have done. They're a little less expensive versus a custom plan that might be more expensive, but be designed exactly how you, the client, want it to be and how it fits on the lot. Right now, we're including site plans. Structural engineering is included so that we can police that. That's one of the ways we keep prices down on cost to build, is the way that we're able to do the structural engineering. And then we usually are pretty generous with changes throughout the process. Usually it's me or one of our designers that are meeting with clients making suggestions. That's when clients do the most changes, and we don't charge for changes that we make suggestions on. So here I'm going to wrap up by taking you from start to finish with a past client from the day that we met them. So on day one, from the day we met them all the way until they moved into their house, I'm going to take you through that whole process. So on day one, they sat down in my conference room and said, hey, we've heard good things about your company. We want you to draw our plans. And I said, well, what kind of home do you want? What do you want the style to be on the outside? So they showed me this photograph. Now, this is actually a home that a friend of mine built. His company built it, and it's his personal home. And so I said, okay, we can do that style, but we can't copy that house. There's copyright rules we have to follow, and we need to come up with our own floor plan and layout like that. And they said, oh yeah, that's fine, but this is kind of how we want the outside to look. And I said, okay, what's the most important part, the inside of the house? And so they said, well, probably the kitchen, family room, dining area, like the great room. And I said, okay, here's 4 of the most popular layouts for great rooms. Which one do you like? And they said, well, tell us the pros and cons of each one. So I said, well, up in the top left, I call that the rectangle. It's a rectangle shape, and it's got the kitchen at one side, the dining room in the middle, the great room off to the other side. People love this layout because they get a lot of kitchen cabinets. They get a sink with a window that looks out to the backyard, And generally it's one giant room, so people like that a lot. What they don't like about this one is the dining room table is in the middle, and they have to cross over that dining room area to get back and forth to the great room. So usually if they don't like that, they'll bump down below to the L, the red kind of L shape. And people really like this layout because now the dining room's popped out the back, the kitchen's off to one corner, and the great room's in the other corner. So it kind of creates that L shape. And even though it's one big room, each of those spaces are in their own zone. So you're not really crossing through one to get to the other. People love this layout. They get a lot of windows that go to the backyard. But what they don't like, or they get frustrated with, is they lose about 30% of their cabinets that used to be there between the kitchen and the dining room to the back. They also, a lot of people like their island to be big and open for displays and buffets and prep work. And so with this L shape, a lot of times you end up with a sink in the island. If they still like this layout and they want more space, they'll square off the top. So if you bump up to the top right, that's the square. And if they want the best of everything, they usually go to the T down in the bottom right corner. It's like a letter T upside down. And they also get the bonus of an added little flex space where you can put a second island or a holiday table to entertain. So this particular client said, well, yeah, we've got a lot of needs. We want the best of everything. So I said, okay, let's go look at your property and see how this T shape is going to fit and maximize the value of your land. So we went out to their property and we noticed something right off the bat. First of all, their lot was sloped. The back was high, the front was low, and the left side was high, and the right side was lower. So it not only sloped in one direction, it sloped in two directions on an angle. The other thing was all of their views were off to one side of the property. So I said, here's something we should consider. What if we took that T shape and rotated it 90 degrees? So instead of your backyard being behind your house, your backyard was off to the side of your house. So you can see here highlighted in red is that T shape rotated. So all their windows were off to the right of that picture. Then we started playing grown-up Tetris. So I took the shapes of the other rooms based on the sizes they said they wanted to have, and we started mapping out where the rest of those rooms could go. And then I quickly sketched up what the outside could look like based on that photograph they first showed me. So this was our first kind of rough bubble diagram. And the client said, okay, we like how this maps out, but how big is that house compared to our lot size? How does it fit on our property? So at the next meeting, we had their property drawn up. Now, they actually bought 2 half-acre lots, and they said, we might want to sell this other lot someday, so let's put the house on one side and do all our landscaping on the other side. So that's how we mapped this out. Their house fit on one side. I'll kind of do a blow up of it, and we kind of sketched it out. You can see I did grid patterns, which helps me follow my rules of even numbers and the golden segment when it comes time to doing the elevation. Now I've highlighted in yellow that T great room shape, and you'll notice it changed. A lot of times clients change their mind, they come up with new ideas, and after we walked on their property and shot some video and drone footage of the views, they came back and said, you know what, we want our great room on an angle. And so I've highlighted in yellow what that new great room shape was going to look like. And I kind of think it looks more like Scooby-Doo eating some Scooby snacks now. And luckily the builder who was in the meeting, we invite the builders to every one of these meetings so they take ownership in this design process. The builder chimed in and said, hey, if you're going to start doing angles like that, you need to add about 25% to your budget. And the client said, well, why is that? And they said, well, do you remember how Jamie talked about the materials we use come in certain shapes and sizes? And they're usually squares and rectangles and things like that. Well, when you start doing angles on a house, you're going to start taking those rectangles and slicing triangles off of them. And those triangles aren't going to be able to be used, so they're going to go in the dumpster. And so you need to budget about 25% to waste, basically. And they said, well, we'd rather use that money on our swimming pool and our sports court, so let's go back and keep everything squared up. So at the following meeting, we went back to the drawing board and restarted the process. So you can see highlighted in yellow is that T shape, and then you can see the sizes and shapes of the other rooms. And then by this time, we had a topographical map that showed the slope of their property. So I was able to resketch the outside of their house to fit that slope. And once they saw the floor plan and this elevation, they said, okay, we love this. The builder said it meets budget. Let's go ahead and move forward. So the client said, all right, let's do it. So at the next meeting, which typically is a week to 2 weeks later, we had their floor plans on the computer. You can see I've highlighted the T in yellow, so you can kind of follow that through this journey. They made a few changes to the floor plan. They had a mother-in-law suite, and they went back and forth on different designs we wanted to do for that. We also did their upstairs. They had an attic room over the garage. They didn't make a lot of changes to that. And after this meeting, they said, okay, let's go to the next step, which is designing the exterior and the basement. So at this meeting this was about 2 weeks later, we had their exterior drawn up, and they made a few changes to this. And then we did their basement. They made a few changes to their theater. And we also email our clients a 3D copy of the plan. So they can download a viewer and spin this around on their home computer and see how that looks. And we also check the square footage. So by doing this, the builder can chime in and say, yep, your square footage is good. We're still on track for budget. Or, hey, we might want to cut back or modify things. The clients can look at room sizes and say, hey, we need a little more space. I oftentimes tell clients to make sure you measure existing rooms in your house to compare to the new rooms to see if a room was too big or too small, or an island size, for example, things like that. So once they approve the square footage, they approve the elevations and the floor plans, we have our client sign off an approval that approves the plans to go to engineering. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks right now for our engineers to get everything back and forth between our drafting team. And then we have one more final meeting. At this meeting, we pull out the full set of plans, and we have a checklist of 5 to 10 items off to the side of every sheet that's going to go to the city. We have the client sign off on it. We have the builder sign off on it, and one of our design experts sign off on it. And what that does is it virtually eliminates any callbacks from the builder or the homeowner with problems out on the job site. So here's what a full set of plans generally looks like. We have a cover sheet with 3D drawings. We've got the site plan. We've got the lower level with door and window schedules. You can see the client made a few more changes here at this final meeting. But the nice thing was we don't get the plans stamped until after this meeting. So generally it doesn't add any extra cost to our client. We got the main floor, the upper level, all the exteriors. We even do a roof drainage plan that verifies we won't have any snow or water issues down the road. Cross sections, which really tell the best story on how the home gets built. We can even do 3D interiors. We can do black and white. That's pretty simple if clients just want a quick view of what things look like. Or we can even do color walkthroughs, interior or exterior. We've also have separate meetings for flooring, electrical, and ceiling details. Here's the electrical plans. We check the square footages one more time just to make sure that we're on track and on budget. One of the unique things we do also is the truss layouts. A lot of architects and stuff avoid this, but we want our team to understand how the roof's going to go together. And this tells a good story to the truss manufacturer because they'll know exactly what our intentions are for the roof. We also have a little disclaimer there in the bottom middle that requests that the builder, the homeowner, and the truss company meet before these are built. We had an experience one time. We were doing a remodel back in Virginia, and we sent the plans to the builder, and the truss company saw our trusses, and they said, oh, well, they've already designed the trusses. We don't need to go out and measure the house. We'll just build them as they're drawn. Well, the foundation company poured the foundation about 4 inches too big, and the truss company never came out to field verify those measurements, and so the trusses were built wrong. And so they had to go back and reorder trusses, which was a combination of the builder and the truss company messing that one up. We had another situation where a builder didn't supervise the superintendent, and the same kind of thing happened. They ordered trusses without field verifying or getting snow loads accurate, and the builder really messed up and ordered the wrong trusses, and they didn't catch it till the 4-way inspection. And they already had piping in, electrical, and all of that. So the builder ended up, I think he went bankrupt and had to change his name or something like that to avoid issues there. So make sure you follow the directions on the plans with that. The other drawings we include are engineering details, notes, footing and foundation, floor framing, main floor, upper floor framing, and roof framing. One of the other cool things that we police when it comes to engineering is we follow certain rules in our office where we try to line up bearing walls, number one. If you can't get a bearing wall to carry a load, then we try to get it held up with a girder truss in the roof. Now, if a girder truss doesn't hold a load, then we put headers and beams in. And every house has to have some type of header or beam, but we try to follow that order of importance. And when we get to beams, we tell our engineers that those beams need to be wood and they need to be 12 inches or less. Now, in some cases, they need a bigger beam than a 12-inch wood beam, and so they'll do steel beams. But on our plans, we require the engineer to give us two options, a wood and a steel option. So now the builder can avoid having to get a letter from the engineer. It's already been thought through up front that way. And there's a few other things. Like I said, builders told us those kind of things save thousands when they go to build. So all of those structural details are included. That's pretty much a full set of plans. So in a nutshell, our process on a custom house is we have our initial meeting, make sure we're a good fit for the client or the builder. Then we do line drawings at the following meeting. And then once those are approved, we get the floor plans on the computer. Once those are approved, we do the elevations in the basement. And once those are approved, we go into engineering, and usually anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks later, we get the plans back and have one more final meeting. And then sometimes in between, while it's at the engineer, we'll do a flooring, ceiling, and electrical meeting. Then the plans are ready to be stamped. Now, sometimes people are in a hurry. You know, our normal process might take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. But sometimes people are in a hurry. They hear that rates are going up and they want to close on a lot, or they want to maybe do a 1031 exchange on a property and they need an appraisal quick. So we have rush options available where we charge an additional fee, and we've done 8,000 square foot custom homes from the time I pencil sketch it to the time it's stamped and out the door in about 3 weeks. And what we do with that is we meet twice a week. I'll hire one of my draftsmen to work nights and weekends, and we give them a bonus. And then we give our structural engineers a bonus to put us in front of the line and kind of kick things through a little bit quicker. If it's a stock plan, the process just goes a little bit quicker because we're modifying an existing plan. And that's pretty much the process. We also try to get people to, if the timing works out, to put their house in the parade of homes. And we try to show them these cool themed rooms that they could do in their own house. And a lot of times people forget about this, but it's also good to think about your landscaping. We've done a lot of cool landscape jobs, even for clients that didn't use us or didn't hear about us till after they were already moved in. So we'll go and design really cool landscapes, from zipline towers and tree houses, sandbox, water feature, fire pits, garden boxes, swimming pool and gazebos, that sort of stuff. So we have a lot of cool landscape projects we've done for a lot of our clients. So the last little bit I want to show you is how that house turned out that I just kind of walked you through from start to finish. So this is what the home looked like when they moved in. So one of the cool things about that house was the client said their budget was around $3.5 to $4 million, and it cost them about $2.75 to build that. So we kept their budget pretty low. They lived in that house for a little over 2 years and sold it after 2.5 years for $5.5 million. So it's awesome to give that kind of value to our clients. We'll go back and maybe put some other pictures in, but the 2 homes I built for myself, both appraised for double what it cost to build. We've also had a client that did a 10,000 square foot custom home that said they only emptied the dumpster one time. So those are kind of the efficiencies and the values that we bring to the table. So if those things are important to you, we might be a good fit for doing your custom home. And if so, then let's get started and build something incredible. I think that about covers it for podcast number 2, Design and Drive. So look forward to putting the next one together.